Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Payo. Today's guest is Dianne Hatke. Dianne is a wife, a mother, a solopreneur who started her own meal company in 2014. She had zero business experience when she started, but she's learned to navigate the terrain of business ownership through ups, downs, financial struggles, and mindset shifts. Welcome to the show, Dianne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So I remember when meal prep companies were just kind of getting started, and it always intrigued me, like the logistics of it, and but it was like a cool idea. I was like, but you got to get up and put in the hours and always be cooking for a lot of people every week. So how did your journey start with this idea of hey, this is something I want to do, and the lessons you learned of was it going back would have been hey, that was a lot bigger hurdle than I thought it was going to be to do?
Yeah, no, at first, I think it's funny you say all the logistics that go into it, because there's so many logistics that go into it. But a lot of that just came over the years. So basically, long story short, I was in grad school for psychology, love psychology, but my master's was in general psych. So I was essentially learning a little bit more about everything related to psychology and nothing specific. Mm-hmm. I had intended to go on to my PhD, but once I got into my master's and realized how much research and paper writing went into it, I was immediately turned off. So after graduating, I was looking for a job, but trying to find a job with a master's degree that didn't really specialize in anything was a little tough. And I really didn't want to go back to waiting tables. Mm-hmm. So I saw a need. A couple friends of mine and I had actually talked about starting this, and I kept pushing them to go with it for me, but they never really got on. But anyway, I don't know. One day I was like, I'm going for it. I'm going to do it. I can't find a job. I didn't like the place I was at. And I was sitting at my desk one day and I bought the LLC. I got the email address, the Facebook page, and my husband was a coach at the gym I was going to at the time. And the owners had agreed to let me put a sign-up sheet at the gym. So that's how we started, with just a sign-up sheet, 3 menu items. People would write what they wanted every week and how many, and they'd leave me a check, and I would use that check to go buy the food, and then I'd drop it off for them the following Monday.
Yeah. When you started, did you have did you enjoy cooking, or is it just something like, hey, I could probably do it? Like, was it a passion?
More that. I did enjoy cooking to an extent. Now I don't not enjoy it, but if somebody else is going to do the cooking, I will let them. But it was more just, I didn't hate it. And I thought that it would be something that might be of value because I started back in 2014. So it wasn't really a thing back then, or not, it exploded over the last couple of years, but it just, yeah. So I kind of lost my
No, when I first started getting like really into fitness, it was like in 2008, 2009. And at the time I had to drive around a lot. Like I had a business that required me to drive and meet customers all over the place. And so I was always on the road, and you'd be like, where can I get like food, and you're like, oh, there's just fast food. It wasn't really convenient, and you're super busy, so like you don't have the time to prep it. And it was always like, it would be great if there was some sort of like healthy options. And then the food prep came on. At first you're like, maybe it's a little, you go, oh, why would I pay this much money to cook this food that I could cook for myself? But when you realize a lot of it is, you go, by the time you go buy all the food, buy all the ingredients, and have variety, it's going to cost you that much anyways, if not more. And then I think what people forget too is how big portions can get when you're not paying attention. Like you go, okay, I'm if you're into, you say, I want to lose weight. At like, don't want to get into the science and the arguments over like paleo and macros and all this stuff. But if you just take it as simple as like, hey, you want to take a certain amount of calories in a healthy food a day. And if you eat this many and you're in a calorie deficit, you'll probably lose weight. And if you're in a calorie excess, you're probably going to gain weight. But people don't realize, like, they go, oh, what's 4 ounces of chicken? And you think it's this big piece. And it's like, no, it's like this much. Or how much is, a serving of almonds? And you think, oh, it's a handful. And it's really not a handful. And all of a sudden you like really start measuring, put it out there, and you go, oh, I thought I was eating 2,000 calories a day. I'm really eating 2,600 calories a day because I didn't realize what my portions were. And I think that's the meal prep stuff really helps kind of dial that down into like, hey, I'm getting healthy foods, I'm getting my right macros, but I'm also getting the right portions, and everything's just kind of done for you, and you just heat it up. You got a ton of variety. So I've been loving the meal preps that we've been getting at our house in the last few years too. So it's a cool business to get into.
Yes, thank you.
Go on.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we started as a primal based company. We still kind of stay within that realm, but I have lessened the dogmatic views that I have in that world that I used to have. I actually recently switched to a high carb diet. So that's been really fun and I'm loving it. But we just focus on whole, clean foods. And I think that's so important, in variety. So providing all of that to people, people are like, why am I going to pay this for a meal? I'm like, well, you try coming up with all the different menu items on your own. It's a lot. And so our customers really, really appreciate that for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I usually ask my guests this idea around the word luck and what their take is on luck. Do you think that you've had luck in your business, or what's your view on it?
I don't think I've gotten lucky. I'm not really a huge believer in luck. I do believe more in manifesting. So I think that, hold on, can you hear my dog whining?
Just barely, but we'll roll with it. It doesn't bother me.
Okay. He's sitting outside the door. So I do believe in manifesting, and I believe that what you put out comes back, but I'm not really a believer in luck. I think that the steps that you take and the actions that you make are what leads to things coming back to you. And I don't feel like I really got lucky sorry, he's in driving. I don't feel like I really got lucky in my business. I think I worked for everything that I got. I mean, I had my long nights. I had, we started in a tiny little kitchen that was just terrible. And we moved into finally a smaller commissary kitchen before we got to the place where we are now. And it was just a lot of grinding, a lot of trial and error, a lot of testing one thing to see if it worked. And letting it go if it didn't, and being okay to do that, and being okay to be wrong, and experimenting really. So, yeah, no, I'm not, I'm not really a big believer in luck.
I love your answer, and like specifically with like the manifestation you talked about, and it's like, hey, when you have an idea and you start manifesting it, and like people say, oh, law of attraction's mumbo jumbo, you just can't like imagine something and it shows up, and that's not really what happens. What I think happens is you say you have a vision of where you want to go, and because you have this vision of where you want to go, you start taking actions that lead you down this path, and because you're taking actions that lead you down this path, you become aware of the opportunities and the energy that's around, that's already there, and they like it starts coming into your life. A lot of times you go, hey, why was it always right here beside me, but I just never noticed it before? And I think it's because you become aware of what you're looking for, and so those things become more apparent to you, and it just kind of builds a little momentum, and it builds some steamrolling. But it's also, like you said, it's hard work, it's persistence, it's the late nights, the long hours, and constantly showing up, because there's probably a million times along the way you said, hey, this is too hard, I want to give up, or you have to reach down inside yourself and find your why to keep going. Which kind of leads me to my next question for you, because you're also helping others with their business journeys now too, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So, like, how did you decide that you wanted to go from one business is enough, I need to have two, or maybe more, and help others?
So I've kind of been dabbling in a few different things, but I think I found my place with business coaching. So like I said, meal prepping and cooking food is not exactly my favorite thing to do. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I got to put the dog outside because he's driving me at the wall. I thought if I moved in here, he would go, Max, come on. Come on. Oh. Okay. We good. All right. So where do we leave off? Yeah. So meal prepping and cooking isn't exactly my passion. I don't have any background other than my company in cooking. And I also get really bored really easily. So while I was growing Primal, I loved it. I loved the behind the scenes aspect of it. Not necessarily the cooking, but the figuring everything out. So putting the systems together, getting the processes together, building a website, figuring out what worked best for my customers, putting all the little minor details together that makes our company what it is, and it sets us apart from everyone else. We're kind of there now. We are sort of just in operation mode at this point. I have talked a lot about on my page and my podcast how we have struggled with some financial issues because of my poor financial decisions, because I didn't know any better being a new entrepreneur. And so we are just sort of in this space where we are recovering, and just I don't know. I don't really want to grow it from where it is right now. I want to get it healthy and sell it. And so for me, I was like, what can I do that will help prevent that boredom that I get with being stuck in the same thing? And I also want to help people. And I've learned so much in this business over the last almost 6 years. I've made so many mistakes. It's not even funny. I mean, so I thought that helping other business owners would be a great way to keep the puzzle going, I guess. There's always going to be a new problem. Businesses are so different. Even if you're within the same industry, the problems within each business are so different because you're operating with different people and different systems, and you have a different vision. And so I thought that this would be a great way to, one, help me, keep me where I need to be in terms of staying intellectually stimulated, but also using all the experience that I have to help other people to prevent them, or at least guide them out of those mistakes if they end up making them.
I can relate to what you described, because I've had businesses in the past that were, I would say, definitely unsuccessful. I had a landscape business that I made no money for 3 years and ended up winding it down. My wife and I owned a wine shop for a few years, and we made some. We took a business that was doing pretty decently and turned it into a bad business because of ideas of grandeur. And like you said, you go, hey, if I would have done it differently, I would have done this and not that. But I think you learn a lot along the process, and that's something I liked, is the starting, the tinkering. Like, hey, we have an idea, like, what's the logo going to look like? What's the website like? What's the feel? Who are our customers going to be? How, like, let's develop this product. And there's this excitement of on this journey. But you learn, like, from your mistakes, and then when you show people what to do, you also learn other things, I think, along the way too. Like, okay, these are the mistakes I learned, and then as you're telling somebody this is what I do differently, it kind of like dawns on me, like, oh, I would even do this too, because this would set you apart. And that's a lot of fun, at least for me. And that's kind of why I started my podcast. Was I didn't want to go back and put a lot of effort into something I wasn't sure was going to be successful, like a business, and I wasn't sure what the idea would be. And I was just kind of like, a podcast kind of checks some of the boxes. It's like, hey, I'm helping others. I'm hearing different people's stories. I'm meeting them, and you get a chance to give some advice and get excited to grow some stuff. And it's led to meeting with other people that have turned into like advice and being an advisor for them outside the podcast. So I totally get what you're saying of the that fulfillment you come from helping and coaching others. How long have you been coaching with others?
So I started this about 3 months. What is it? May? About 5 months ago. But I have recently, I started as a mastermind. Mm-hmm. So I was in a mastermind for about a year. A couple years ago, I left last year so I could take basically my mastermind money to go to Tony Robbins' Business Mastery last year. But there were a lot of things about it that I didn't like. And so I wanted to start my own to fill those gaps, but also to reach younger business owners who maybe couldn't afford that ticket price. So I had 3 of those meetings before COVID hit. And then I started with a new coaching group, and I kind of realized some things that I wanted to shift my focus and get a little more structure to it, because it didn't have the structure that I wanted. I just sort of jumped into it wanting to help people. So right now I'm revamping that and focusing on structure for one-on-one coaching.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things is like my show, I try to focus a little bit on is networking and building personal relationships. And you've built a business, and you're building a new business. Like you've probably realized you can't do it all by yourself. Yeah. Like you definitely need help. So if you're out there recommending I'm Joe Nobody, I come to you and said, hey, I want to start a business and I don't know what I'm doing, can you coach me? Where would you guide them on developing their network of the right relationships to have to help them succeed?
So first, I think it would depend on the type of business that they were building and the type of support that they were looking for. But if you're looking for free support, there are Facebook groups that are great. Check them out. Some of them get a little spammy, but I belong to a few of them that are really good, and the moderators are great, and they don't really allow people to just bombard you with ads. I know we have some local ones here, and essentially it's just people advertising. But there are other options for that. I also I'd say either, if you were working with me, obviously you'd have a one-on-one coach, but masterminds are great. Or find, go talk to other business owners in your area if you can, and try to get them together once a week or once a month or so to brainstorm. But I think the networking kind of starts as you start reaching out to build your business. So mine started with just questions. I was so afraid to ask questions when I first started Primal, because I don't know, I felt like people weren't going to want to help me, but they were so helpful and they would point me in the right direction. And then we now have vendors who we work very closely with, and they refer people to me. I can refer people to them. So that's a great place to start, is just within your community. And if you can't, I know some people have smaller communities and it's just not possible. So get online, join Facebook, find some groups there. LinkedIn is another great place. And then Google masterminds. That might not be the best start because a lot of the ones that come up are fairly expensive for new business owners. You can also search hashtags on Instagram and you'll find some younger people who are getting started who will be more than willing to help you and connect you with people.
That's one thing you talk about Facebook and the Facebook groups is they're super powerful right now. And you're right. Like my experience, and I had been off Facebook for a lot of years. Like I had my account, but I wasn't logging in and doing anything with it. But I remember I'd go into Facebook groups and they would be, like you said, very spammy. Like, come to my Tupperware party type stuff. And you're like, oh, this isn't, I'm not learning. I'm just constantly being pitched to. So I'm out of it. And then when I started getting into my podcast, I was like, how do you get started? Like, how do you record? What do you post to? Like, how do you post an episode? Like, and you start asking yourself questions and okay, well, I'll find some people like that do podcasting. And so that's what I did. I started looking at people that I said, hey, who's been doing it for a few years? They're not Tony Robbins, Joe Rogan successful, but they're making it. They're doing it. They've been doing it. And how do they set up their websites? And so I started doing that. And then I started noticing that they would have Facebook groups. And so I'd go into the Facebook group with like the reservation of like, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to get spam. People are going to ask me to join their group. And like, it's going to be, and you find out that they're very passionate about their niche and they're very passionate about helping others. And you find that there's people just like you that don't know what they're doing and they're just getting started. And there's people who've been doing it for a few years and figured it out. And then there's people that are just like rocking it and they're willing to share their knowledge. And it could be about podcasts. It could be about starting your own food prep company. It could be about underwater photography. Like you just go in and you find a niche Facebook group and you join like 3 or 4 because everybody's got their own vibe and you're going to fit in a little bit better with other people. But it tends to be like you go into one group and you're talking and you introduce yourself and somebody usually goes, hey, check out this other group. And then they introduce you to another group and you kind of find, I guess, your tribe of people. And the more you're surrounded with it, you get all this information. You find out like, you don't have to do it all by yourself and people want to help. And I think it's just super powerful how the Facebook groups are and so niche. I didn't really realize it until the last few months, just how awesome it was. And you're right about LinkedIn. It's a great way to just kind of connect with people that you have similar interests to locally or nationally or across the world and just kind of get out there and network a bit and get to know some people. So you're right on the money there with those recommendations for sure. My next question for you is around the name of this podcast. I call it the All In Podcast because to me, all in means something to me, but I think it means something to everybody else in their own unique way. So I'd like to get your take on what do you think it means to be all in on an idea or an outcome or something that you're working towards?
Yeah. So to be all in, it's to be committed and I guess most simply just to show up even when you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
That's...
It is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like you said, it's showing up even when you don't want to. And you talked a bit about like the long nights, the late nights, long hours with your business. And when you're starting a business, you think it's going to be glamorous, it's going to be, Instagram worthy lifestyle, but that's only a part of it. And a lot of it is going every day and grinding it out and doing the same things over and over again, which can be tiring. So I think you do have to have a good why that when you wake up every morning, it's something you want to wake up, it's something you want to chase, and something you want to pursue. Because it's more important than the bad days. It's something that's a very, very important for you too. So you're definitely on the right path with the all in is doing whatever it takes. Cool.
I think it also requires a willingness to be able to explore yourself and to never stop learning. Mm-hmm. And some people don't have that in them and some people do. And so, if you're going to go all in, you've got to be willing to be committed when you don't want to be, to show up when you don't want to show up, but also to keep learning, to find ways to motivate yourself when you're not motivated. Actually, I listened to your podcast earlier on motivation and, how that motivation isn't always there. So you just got to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that willingness to do it even when you don't want to. And yeah, of course, to know why you're doing it, because if you don't have your why, it's going to be harder for you to show up.
Mm-hmm. Where do you go to learn? Where do you, like, if you're seeking knowledge, what's your like go-to to find out more about something?
Books and podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I really like podcasts. I love listening. Like I've been really into Ed Milet recently, Angie Lee, because I'm moving into the social media platform a little bit more. I'm still really into health and nutrition, but I'm not working in that field anymore. But I listen to a lot of Ben Greenfield. So I love podcasts for learning, because it's not just a book where you're sitting down reading some material that somebody put out for you, but you're actually getting like life experiences from the person who had it, and their perspective and their tone, and often they're conversating with someone, so you can dig a little bit deeper in that way.
Yeah, one of the things I was told is, like, even though the message of the person saying it is the same, like they have a topic they're an expert on, but they go on different shows. They talk about their expertise in like a little bit different way. And so sometimes if you're like, oh, I've heard this message before, like if I read the book, why would I keep reading the book over and over again? I've already read the book. Or if I watch the movie or watch the show or I watch the YouTube video, it's always the same. But if you go and you said, hey, my favorite podcast host is on this other guy's show, it's got a different take than when they're on some other gal's show, and so there's always a little bit more of a nugget to learn. It's a different take, it's a different view, and a lot of times it's not even scripted or rehearsed, so you get kind of how that person's raw emotion is for that day and what they've been thinking about, like at the moment. Like even though the message is like, hey, this is what I want to talk about today, I might feel like really fired up about it, or the next day I might be like, I've been kind of like exploring this other idea. I want to kind of weave into the story and see how it goes. So podcasting is a great place to learn. So let's talk about the people that you work with. If you could describe them, your ideal client, the person that you're going to serve the best, the person that's going to work with you the best. I think it's very, it goes both ways. Like it's not just like the best client for me is this, but you do better when you have good clients, and the clients do better when they have the right coach. So like how to you, what is that person that's just the perfect fit for you?
Yeah. So I'm really into mindset. And when I first started this, I was like, I just want to help all business owners. But I came to realize that if you don't believe some of the things I believe, and you aren't willing to make some of the mindset shifts or to dig into some of that stuff, you probably won't work well with me, because that's a big part of my practice. I think it's very important for running a business. So I'm looking for people who are either crushing it in their business and know that they can take it to the next level, but they're kind of stuck and they, maybe don't know quite what's holding them up, or their ego is getting in the way and holding them back a little bit because they've gotten comfortable where they are and they need to start pushing it to the next level. They don't have it within themselves to really pull that out, or they're just looking for a different perspective to kind of help shift that. And then also for new business owners who are like trying to avoid a lot of the problems that I made, but are dealing with all of the stuff that comes up when you start a business, because there's a lot of stuff that comes up. And if you don't know how to work through that and to get over it, you can find yourself in some pretty weird or even dark places. So really, I'm here to help business owners get out of their own heads to start making progress forward towards their goals. And, it can be, I think that your personal life ties very heavily into your business. So I can work with them both there, but I really love helping them dive into business solutions.
Mm-hmm. You're right though. Like having a coach kind of works in a few ways. Like if you go and you say, I don't know anything about, we go to your fitness passion. So you say, I want to get fit, but I don't know anything to do. So you hire a coach. They're going to show you how to use the equipment or what to do, the exercises, and they give you some guidance on how to do it, set a program for you and say, okay, get started. But then you get started, you go for a while and you kind of know what you're doing. And you say, well, I didn't need somebody to show me what to do. I already know what to do. But that's where the coach also serves another purpose, is they help pull what you are missing out of you. They already reach in and say, hey, look, I'm the one that's going to ask you to do a little bit more, or challenge yourself a little bit harder, or ask you the questions you're afraid to ask, and not say, your friends might be cheerleaders and go, yeah, you're doing so great, you're crushing it. And you might, as a coach, say, yeah, I think you could have done better. You had more in you to do this. And here's where I think you should be looking at improving, and having a coach in all those aspects are great. But definitely when you're starting out too, like you said, you don't know what to do. There's a lot you have to navigate, and you really should be focusing on your business ideas and not how do I incorporate my business, or, where's the best spot to get the leads for my structure? Having somebody that's been through it before will tell you hey, don't even worry about this. Just hire somebody over here, get it done. Don't think about it. This is an idea that can wait. You're rushing the wrong things. Focus on this other stuff too. And I think you're going to do great showing people the ropes, and you're going to learn a lot on the way yourself as well. So excited for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So now that I know I want to work with you, where can I find you?
I am on Instagram at Dianne.Hatke. That's DIANNE.HATKE. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not the best at it. So still working on building out a website. It's right now I'm just trying to provide lots of value to people. So it's not number one on my list, but it is coming. So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram.
Yes, and all those links will be right there, and you'll be able to find Dianne from the website. But I think you're right too. A lot of people say, hey, I want to start a business, and then they just what's my logo going to look like? What's my website going to look like? And that's it's important, but not that important. And you're already focusing on helping the others and getting clients and doing business with people, and that the website will come. But it's focusing on the things that move the needle. And sometimes you're being busy making a logo, but it's not really moving the needle. Mm-hmm. You need to focus on the things that move the needle. So you're definitely leading by example. Again, enjoyed our conversation. I'm very excited to speak with you. Just, you've started one business, and excited to see you start another one. I think it's always a passion of mine, watching people chase their dreams and get going. So it's exciting.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Enjoyed our time.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.